Let's go ahead and get started. Appreciate everyone being here today. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everybody out there. Happy to see you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jeff. I'm the PR director here at the Museum of Idaho, and it's my pleasure to talk a little bit about Museum Club today. So we still have a few people filing in, and I'm sure there's more continuing to add online. So I won't say anything super important right at the beginning just yet. So this is, of course, our final Museum Club of 2021. I was hoping to have our final schedule for you for our winter session for January through March. I don't have anything printed ready for you to take with you yet. You'll be happy to know we have a great slate of people who will be speaking to us. A couple of things are still moving around a little bit on the calendar, but the points to remember right away now is that we will not have a museum club in any form on the first Thursday of January, as we will still be recovering from the holidays. I think we would probably have almost nobody there, and so let's just go ahead and skip it. We can all take a breath and go on a jog or something, and so we will also, one of the reasons we won't be doing early January is that we will be using this room of our education center also to store things for our new exhibit, which we will be opening in January, Genghis Khan, Culture and Conquest. And so we will kick off our 2022 season on January 20th with Lise Perlman. She's an author and a judge. Former judge, and she's going to be talking about Idaho's trial of the century. Of course, the trial, a massive labor trial that came out of the assassination of our governor of Idaho back in 1906. And a fascinating episode in our state's history that we'll go into. So, and after that, we are actually going to have a special evening engagement as well. A Museum Club evening engagement. Now, this is something that you may recall we started right before, whoops, sorry, I'm jumping the gun on you, Bob. There we go. We started with the evening engagements right before the global pandemic hit. And so we had one of them. And it was this, our wonderful talk that we had in early 2020 on evolution and religion with the BYU biology professor, Dr. Jensen. And so we are going to resume our larger evening lecture events as well, starting in January with a wonderful presentation on the basics of understanding climate change, how it works, what scientists are seeing, what to expect going forward. With Stephanie Walsh, and it should be a lot of fun. Well, maybe that's a fatalistic sort of, it'll be informative anyway. I think you'll enjoy it. She's a great presenter.
Do we have both sides?
The science and the not science. I don't know if we have a not science side here. But we will, anyway, after that, we've got some fantastic other talks. We're going to go into the history of Jews in Idaho. We're going to talk more about Genghis Khan, get you behind the scenes of that new exhibit. And we're going to have a deep look into our Wasden collection of artifacts as well. That wonderful collection that has been excavated just west here of Idaho Falls. And we're going to get you up close and personal with some fun stuff that has come out of the ground there from several thousand years ago. So anyway, that's what you have to look forward to if you're not already looking forward to the holidays. Hopefully you are. Anyhow, without further ado, I want to introduce Bob Hope for you. It's really fun for me to have Bob here, and I'll tell you why in a second. But first of all, Bob is an associate professor of informatics at Idaho State University down in Pocatello. And the focus of his research is on finding new ways to keep data safe and accessible, which is sort of, I don't know if that's not an oxymoron, right? It's possible to have it both safe and accessible, but that's the crux of the problem, right? So until recently, Bob has also been serving, I should say, Dr. Houghton has been serving as Associate Dean of the College of Business at Idaho State University. He's also served as the Systems Administrator for that college. Notably, he has also received a Fulbright to teach at Tashkent University of Information Technology in Uzbekistan. If we have any TUIT alumni out there, probably not. But an incredible experience, I'm sure. Dr. Houghton has 3 degrees from Utah State University, and I know a lot of other things about him that I won't say over the pulpit here, because I've known Bob for very many years. His brother was my best friend in college, and so Bob was the older brother that we would go hang out with, and he would sort of teach us how to not be irresponsible college students. And anyway, really excited to have Bob, Dr. Houghton here to talk about some things that we should be aware of and what's happening in cybersecurity right now and how we can keep ourselves safe. So without further ado, Bob Houghton.
After that introduction, can you all hear me just fine, or do I need one? Great, sounds good. Microphones are kind of hard to get the tone right, so it's nice to be here. It's nice to be out again. It's nice to finally be able to come out and see, do these lectures and these type of things. It's kind of the first part of returning, as we say, like the return to normalcy and those kind of things. So yes, I specialize in network security and cybersecurity research and those kind of things. So first off, how many of you understand what, where the threat is? What is the threat? What are we talking about when we say cybersecurity, network security? Sure.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. There is a lot of truth in that. It's not paranoia if they really are out to get you. And the problem is they are. And especially online, especially in the virtual world, as we like to call it colloquially. What else is there? Like what, how you say everywhere, what do you mean by everywhere? Like in this room right now, or just generally speaking out in the big yonder?
Any computing device you have can be susceptible.
That's right. Any and every computing device you have can be susceptible. And there's a reason for that. And the reason is because we made them that way. We made them to be susceptible. We made them so that way other people could access them. Well, why did we do this? It's kind of eye-opening to think about. But why did we do this? What? Pardon? Or anyone? Why did we make them easy to access? Well, it goes back to the idea of sharing data. The first computer communication happened in 1969. It was in October of 1969. In fact, whenever I teach a bunch of college students, I always say that 1969 was the greatest year of all humankind. You chuckle, but the reality is we have arguably the most important human achievement, which is Neil Armstrong walking on the moon, July 20th, 1969. We had the Woodstock Festival, which was arguably the greatest rock and roll concert of all time. And then finally, we have the birth of the internet, October of 1969. 8 researchers, 4 at Stanford and 4 at UCLA, got together and they connected these massive computers. And these computers, it's hard, some of you may have seen them, some of you may have not, but to give you a picture of what they would look like is, in this room that we're in is roughly, best guesstimate, 300, 400 square feet, somewhere in that range. This whole room would be the computer. You would be literally inside it right now. And they got 2 of these things, one at Stanford, one at UCLA, and they connected them up through phone lines. And these phone lines, they typed commands, and the computers crashed 3 keystrokes, not even commands, 3 keystrokes in, the computers crashed. But that was the beginning of the internet. And by December of that year, you had 4 computers on the internet. It was UCLA, UC Santa Barbara, Stanford, and the University of Utah was connected to this. So the internet was built in Silicon Valley. There's a reason why all of that development happened there. All of those things are because of the internet. Now, when we designed this thing, we thought universities would be using them. Okay, do we trust our universities? Well, if I'm a university and you're a university, we're all universities. So yes, we trust each other. That trust goes 2 ways. So when we designed the system from the get-go, And that's my next slide here. I'll skip to here. This is the system in which we use to communicate. This is called the OSI model, the Open Systems Interconnect model. And it's this 7-layer model that data is given to sent from one computer and given to another. So you work your way down and then back up. So you transmit data coming down. So we have the application layer, which is layer 7, layer 1, layer 7. We transmit down, we transmit, or excuse me, we write down, we transmit, and then we unpackage the packet. The term is packet. And each one of these packets, we send millions of packets in order to make this data happen. And the reason why everything is trying to attack us is because there's a threat. There's, well, numerous threats. We're going to go into a few of them. But there's a threat at each layer of this model. And why this model? Well, this is what the network was built on. This idea of openness, of open standards. Because the more people that are open, the more data we can share. The more data we can share, the more we can get things done. I'm sure lots of you have been on Wikipedia, right? We laugh and we say, oh, it's just Wikipedia. It's 98% accurate. It's hugely accurate. They've done many studies on Wikipedia because it's very well cited and very well sourced. Please use Wikipedia. I mean, yeah, if you're going to look up Kourtney Kardashian on Wikipedia, you might get a little bit less accuracy there. But if you look up World War II or some battle of it, you're going to get a good summary of what that is. It is a very good encyclopedia. How do we access it? We'll just go to www.wikipedia.com or org, excuse me. Even then, I screwed it up a little bit. And we go there and we talk, and the computer, the Wikipedia servers talk to us, and we talk to them back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And without that openness, we wouldn't have that knowledge. One of the jokes nowadays we say is that Google is the source of all human knowledge and all human fallacy. But there's more truth to that than there isn't. So let's talk about each one of these layers. Now that we've kind of established what these layers are, going back to our, I call it the cake, because I think it looks like a wedding cake with all of its layers. We build, and we build, and we build. So we're going to talk about each layer and how you can be attacked on it. The first layer is called, going back to our slide, the physical layer. These are the actual wires that we use. Okay, and everyone, now granted, we have Wi-Fi, we have cellular, but ultimately those are what we all term as wires, because they connect the host computer to the beginning stage of the internet. And we have two major sources of attack. And the first one is called a wiretap. And how many of you have heard the term wiretap? I'm getting lots of head shakes, yeah. So when do we hear about the term wiretapping? When do we really think about it? Who does wiretaps? The feds, yeah, the feds. Yeah, the feds, the police, they do this. What are they doing? They're listening. They're trying to catch criminals, but they're listening. What are they listening for?
Clues.
I'm sorry, what?
Clues.
Clues, yeah. Hey, this is Big Jake. Big Fred and I are gonna go rob the big bank on Big Tuesday. Because everything's big in the mob world. I don't know. But that's what they're listening for. They want to hear the plans, the details, and those kind of things. But why do they do it through a wiretap? Because that way they don't know that they're listening to them. Well, there's a problem there, isn't there? This is a star tap. It's kind of shaped like a crystal. Yeah, I was more like a throwing star, you know. Gotta love ninjas, you know, we're IT guys, we're kind of used that way. This is called passive tap. I'll skip to, this is, so the way it works is you have these arrows. The data is going this way. So back and forth and back and forth. This line, here's this side of the communication. Anything that comes in through here goes that way. Anything that comes in through here goes that way. So you need two computers. So if you have two computers, you can listen to anything on the internet or anything going between the computers. And how hard is this to discover? Insanely hard. Because all you're gonna see when you're looking at a wire is a power loss. Some little, and it's not even that much, it's just a small power drift. So as we're communicating, if you type your password and someone's put in this tap, and this tap, while that one's physical, again, this is the physical layer, you know, we can talk about, you know, let's talk about radio waves. How do you listen to the radio? Describe, you know, it's simple. This is not a trick question. Describe how you would listen to the radio. You turn on the radio, and then what happens? Then what do you do? You turn the dial, and you pick up a station, and you listen to it. Well, guess what? A radio is a radio is a radio. A rose is a rose is a rose. A radio is a radio is a radio. All you have to do on the Wi-Fi or your cellular signal, tune in to the right frequency, and you can hear the whole thing. The quieter you are, the more you can hear. So it works the same way. So that's kind of, by the way, the purpose of this lecture is to scare the pants off of you. Okay, so there's a lot of ways we combat this, and we'll come to those at the end. I just kind of presenting the threats first. So this is how that tap connection worked. There's also a process called attenuation. Attenuation is what the process of a wire turns into an antenna. If you send a voltage through it, it broadcasts that signal slightly. Well, if I get my wire close enough to your wire, I can hear it. And so again, I can tap your connection without even actually touching your connection. So that's called wiretaps and crosstalk. We will, again, they're hard to detect, but here's the good news. How do these bad guys have to get there? How do they have to put the tap? Well, in your individual cases, they literally have to break into your house, unplug the wires, plug them in, and leave computers in your house. So what are the odds that they're going to do that? 0. It's not even infant, it's not literally, I can honestly say that this is a 0 probability of happening. None of you, no offense, are important enough for, I mean, I'm serious. I'm serious when we're talking about this type of level of hacking. Now, Elon Musk, you know, the president of the United States, our senators, oh yeah, those type of people are definitely the Department of Defense. Sorry, I keep interrupting myself. These type of people absolutely positively look for this stuff because they're constantly facing them. So that's layer 1. And again, do we have to worry about layer 1? No. We, the common people, we get to know that we're just not going to be there. We're not worth the time, hassle, and headache of trying to do all of that break in, put the tap in. I'm just going to break in and just take your jewelry, right? Well, if I'm already there, why not just grab the stuff and leave? What do I need your identity for? At least at this one. Layer 2. So let's go back. Should put the slide in more. The data link layer. This is where we establish software. How are we going to transmit? The first way we do this is called ARP poisoning. ARP is address resolution protocol. Computers don't talk like you and I do. I'm using words. I'm speaking English. So therefore we have grammar. We have, in fact, I could let Jeff lecture on the benefits of the English language. He was an English major when I knew him. So, and I told him not to do that, and he didn't listen to me, which is good for him. He's done well in life, so I'm glad he majored in English. But computers have to speak a language too. They speak what's called IP, Internet Protocol. There's also TCP. I'm sure you've heard that, but that's a different layer up. That's at layer 3. We're at layer 2. Layer 2 is IP, Internet Protocol. So we speak that, and that means these ones and zeros that are lined up. There's 32 of them. So 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0. 32. And that was, I have no idea what that was, you know. But there's 32 of these ones and zeros that are all lined up. And the certain order in which they're lined up makes up the language, the grammar, the syntax, the words that we use. And that's how a computer communicates. Well, at the base, is an IP address, which is a series of 32 ones and zeros. We break it down into 4 groups of what we call octets, but it's 0 through 255. So the IP address at your house, if you were to check it, I guarantee you, if you go into your computer and you know how to check it, it's going to be 192.168.0 dot probably 6 or 7 or 2, but it's not going to be 1, and it's not going to be 255, and it's not going to be 0. Those I can guarantee, because those are the rules of the internet. But 192.168.0, that's something. Well, if I say that 192.168.0.2 is your iPad, but I'm a bad guy, and I say I am 192.168.0.2, then all of the data that was supposed to come to you is now going to come to me. Poof, done. And then you're going to go, why am I not getting my YouTube or my Netflix? And that's the reason. So how do you fix it? Well, you would probably just reboot your laptop, reboot your router. You know, if you ever heard, you go out and turn it off, and try turning it off and on again. It does work. Einstein's definition of insanity of doing the same thing twice, expecting a different result. He never used a computer. But what that does is it enables the bad guy to receive all that data. And if I'm receiving the data, I can get certain data called cookies or sign-in keys. They're called SSH keys. And now I can fake being you. How hard is this to do? It's extremely hard. The amount of data you have to sift through to get those type of things to encrypt is mind-boggling. You at your home cannot, so here's the, okay, you at your house cannot generate that much data to generate the art poisoning needed for a bad guy to get your data this way. The way I would do this is I would go to Starbucks, or I would go to a public library that has like the Metropolitan Public Library in New York City. I need a lot of active internet connections to weed out those things, to finally get someone's credential this way. It takes a lot of data. You can't just do it on a drive. You can't just really do it by driving by people's homes without sitting in front of it forever trying to track this down. Now, is this possible? Yes. If I hire, let's say you're again an important person, and I drive by your house and I put up a special antenna and I do a few things, and I've done this before because that's what my research is all about. Yes, eventually, if I stay there for a month, I can get some data. But after a month of my car sitting in your front yard, you're going to call the tow truck and you're going to have me towed. So it's really not feasible at this private level. But as you work your way up the hierarchy, it can become worth it. So that's art poisoning. Last one of these green levels. Now these green layers are different than the layers going up. Why? Why are they green? Why are these different colors? These 3 go together. These are all 3 of these. I know this is called the physical layer, but all 3 of these involve physical pieces of hardware that you can touch. This is your wire. This is your switch. And this is your router. I'm sure you've heard of your router at home. And most of you skip the switch part. In large networks, you need switches. But in home networks, you just need a router, which is actually technically a router switch, and the wire itself. And that could be a radio wave, as we've talked about. So the network layer, the thing that you actually think is the network, let's see, there we are. The thing that you actually think is the network is the thing that we're trying to attack next. And this is where the idea of IP spoofing comes into play, pretending to be on this network even if you're not. And this is done at the router level, so they don't necessarily have to be in your home again. They can be outside, but they really want to be plugged in. You have to be plugged into the physical network because routers don't transmit data wirelessly. We are now to the point in the hierarchy of the OSI stack that everything's now on a physical connection. The wireless connection between you and the cell phone tower, let me go back to explain that a little better. Like I said, I should have duplicated this slide multiple times throughout. When you're on your Wi-Fi at home and you're connected, you're here at the physical layer. When you're on your cell phone and you're connected, you're here at the physical layer. But in order to be on the actual internet itself, there is no more wireless. anytime that you're going to try to do something wireless, it's between these two layers. Once we get here, we're talking fiber optic connections between networks. So like Verizon talking to AT&T, or L2 communications talking to L3 communications. Massive ISP to ISP. They're not going to do wirelessly. There's just not enough bandwidth. On a fiber optic switch, we can get 100 gigabits per second. On our wireless, we're good and lucky if we can sustain about 100 megabits per second. That's a factor of 1,000 between those two. So, layer 3. The first one, I want to actually, we're not going to go to the peer. Now let's talk about the teardrop attack. A teardrop attack involves, imagine a teardrop breaking off from a stream of water. Well, that stream of water is continuing to go, but that teardrop, as it comes down, is a little bit of that data, the stream of data. And it involves intersecting. So how do you make a teardrop happen? Well, imagine again water going by. You just stick a little pencil in it, and now some of the water will follow the pencil. That's what we're doing. We have this stream of data. We insert bad packets. They cause data to leak, and we get data that way. But again, we have to physically touch the wire for this to happen. And this is different than a layer 1 attack, because this can also be done at the computer that's processing these layer actions. I don't actually, when I say physically touch the wire, I mean the infrastructure. IP spoofing is the most common form of remote attack. This one that we're putting up on the board is the one that the state-based agents use. And by state-based agents, I mean China and Russia. Sorry, I have the data, I can show you. China attacks us, they want information. Russia attacks us, they want our money. That's, in a nutshell, what's going on the internet. So, IP spoofing is basically the same thing as that arc poisoning thing. We get an IP address, but this time, I don't have to be on your network. I can be somewhere else and somehow force it, because every single computer on the internet has to have a unique IP address. Every single one. So there are currently 2 to the 32 IP addresses, which is about 4.2 billion IP addresses. So and how many people are in the world? Oh, about 7-8 billion. So we're, it's 1 IP address for every 2 people. And some countries use more. You use more. Some countries use less. Aboriginal people of, Alaska doesn't use as many as Delaware will use. Same type of deal. But they're all allocated. And so we have enough IP addresses. For now, there's a debate about, do we need to go to a larger IP address range, and that would be 2 to the 128, which is 32 non-million, something decillion, some big numbers I don't care about, because it's basically infinity. It might as well be. It's so huge. But IP spoofing is when I'm going to use everyone's unique IP address, 63.55, 63 is GE, by the way, 63.55. something. And they're going to pretend to be a computer on the GE network. And so data that would normally go to GE would go to them. And that's how we set up state-based attacks. I can go to GE, set up a computer to relay the data, and I'm faking that IP address on GE's network. Any questions about the first 3 layers? And the reason I'm bringing this up now is that this is a good place to say these, you have to physically be there for the most part. You have to somehow infiltrate the area. You can't just be somewhere and have it work. Sure, please.
Is this spoofing, is that the same thing as getting email from a company business?
No, we'll talk about that at layer, that's layer 6.
Bob, can we have you restate the question for people on Zoom?
Oh, sure. I forgot. Any questions so far as to layers 1, 2, and 3? Yes.
Is this a device that the hackers use?
Is this the what that the hackers use?
Is this a technique?
No, absolutely. Every hacker, I mean, these are all techniques though that that hacker groups are going to use, not just a single hacker. As we move up the chain, the sophistication of the attack decreases. These things are massive. I literally have to break into, I have to break into a building. I have to have micro-sized computers pre-programmed to start retransmitting data. I have to have special wire cutters that don't break the wire, that let me tap into it. And these wires, by the way, some of them are smaller than the human hair. Some of these fiber optic cables are just teeny tiny. You break them, you know it immediately. So I have to not break them. And I have to somehow smuggle all this data out to my awaiting post. No, we're talking state-based agents, the mafia, the police. These are not your run-of-the-mill, you and I are going to have a hacking party type thing. Now, actually, I should say that way because I've been at hacking parties and we do this because it's fun. But we pre-make the game, as it were, to be broken. You and I are not going to pre-make the computers in your house to be broken. That's just not, no, it's just not good practice. And it's really not feasible also. Again, everyone in this room, I'm sure you're all wonderful, you're important to a whole bunch of people, but the bad guys just don't care. You know, and I'm not saying it to distract you. It's just that when we're talking about this type of level of sophistication, I want millions, if not tens of millions of dollars. I'm not going to go after $500. I'm going to take your possessions if I'm going to break into your house. I'm not going to try to hack your computer. All right, that's the first 3 layers. The reason why I always stop here is because this is where remote attack begins. Layer 4. This is. Let me show you my slides. Pink. Layer 4. Now we're in yellow, orange, purple, and red. All of these 4 layers are software based, which means I no longer have to be there. If I don't have to be there, I can be less sophisticated. This is where it's like, this is cool. These are boring, but this will hurt you, and this you don't have to worry about. That's the email. The ping of death. I love the name of this one. Anyone know what a ping is? Any idea what a ping? Anybody here in the Navy? Yes.
Well, where I've seen it is when I changed a bank account for which a deposit's supposed to be made.
Yeah.
Or something else, and they'll make the bank will show a ping that make sure the account numbers are.
Yep.
Make sure things are right.
That's right. That's exactly true. That the bank will send a little ping to make sure and test the account with a little bit of data, make sure it works. That's absolutely true. The ping comes from submarines. What a ping is it's the noise an active sonar signal makes in the water. You know, if you've ever seen a submarine movie, one ping, flip the switch, press the button, you hear this that kind of goes out from the submarine and it goes again. Yeah, just like that. Perfect timing. That was awesome. I think, you know, just life works out that way. I love it. Ping. Yeah, so someone pinged her. In fact, we can call that, hey, did someone ping you? Oh yeah, I got pinged. Exactly. It's where it comes from. Well, the ping of death is the same thing. Except for, well, the ping part of the ping of death means I'm going out and seeing and probing what computers are out there. Ping, ping, ping. But the difference is I overload this ping. Because a ping is just a little amount of data, usually 56 bytes. Remember, we're talking megabytes and gigabytes and terabytes of information being transmitted. So 52 bytes, that's nothing. That's why it's a ping. Ping, are you there? Ping back, yes, I am. Ta-da, that's a ping. Well, what happens if I make it big? And by big, I mean 65,536, which is one more. One more. That's the binary limit of a packet size. That's one more. You know, it goes to 11. That's one more than we can have in a ping, or else it has to be done in 2 pings. Back in the day, now most computers are prevented against this. But if I sent out this size of a ping beyond the maximum authorized size, so more than 65,536, then it would crash. Boom. Done. You're out of commission. So all I have to do is just ping the internet with the packet at 65,537, and I crash the whole internet. Done. And they used to do this in the 80s, just for fun. Great. How much? Okay. Anybody have any idea how much revenue goes through Amazon in a minute? So imagine Amazon now being down for a minute, just 1 minute. This attack, we have hardened ourselves. This no longer works on the modern internet, but it's still there. If you have an older computer, it could still happen. But that's how you know, when I said we're now talking lesser sophisticated attacks, this is one of them. I just love the name of it. It's easy to understand. It's kind of gone by the wayside because of modern computing, but it was there. The other way is to DOS it via a ping of death. So what DOS means is denial of service. So instead of ping of deathing you, I ping of death him. And that ping of death, I turn him into a ping of death server, who then only sends pings of death to you. And you get overloaded with traffic. Because I do this with, you know, again, there's 4.2 billion computers on the internet, roughly. Well, if I get 1% of them and have them all focus on a smaller computer, it goes down. There's just not enough network traffic, not enough bandwidth for them to maintain that. This is an easy way to crash computers, and it happened recently. About 3 years ago, so a bunch of Ukrainian hackers decided to hack against some Russians. Again, state-based. They hacked a bunch of computers in South Korea. They called it the Inception Attack. For those of you who have seen the movie Inception, it's an attack within an attack within an attack, like a dream within a dream within a dream within a dream. And it was an attack within an attack within an attack within an attack, 7 layers deep. It was a good one. And it ended up costing the Russians days of movement against Ukraine during the Crimea crisis. Pretty cool, well, or awful, depending on which side of that war you're on. Okay, we're on the cool side, good. That's the right answer, okay. All right, so that's layer 4. Layer 5, session hijacking. This is done with some sort of DOS attack. I somehow eliminate you, DOS again, denial of service. I eliminate you out of the equation, you meaning your computer. But there's still data coming into it. I start receiving that data, but this is now done remotely. And this is where we get into the idea of stealing your passwords, stealing your bank accounts. And usually this is done through a fake email. This is layer 6. Layer 5 and layer 6 kind of have to be combined at this level because it's the same type of thing. So, dear urgent message to all Hotmail users. This is a fantastic, Hotmail's a little out of date. Some of my email's a little out of date. That logo's old, that's old. Make sure you send an email that says, my account is still active, keep me going. Oh, this is faker than fake, isn't it? They don't need to do this. And yet, we get these all the time. Sincerely, A. Lincoln, because that signature is in the internet. Good old Abraham Lincoln, 16th president, who died 150 years ago. But this is where we get into a spamming message. This is nowadays the most common form of attack. This is not layer 7 yet, by the way. We still have layer 7 to go. But this is where we get into the idea of ransomware. Spyware. Spyware is layer 7, but you can kind of see it here. This email, the presentation layer, this is where we present data to the user. So if I'm presenting an email to you and it looks like it came from your bank, and it smells like it came from your bank, and it feels like it came from your bank, it's not from your bank. This is not the if it quacks, if it swims, and if it floats, it's a duck or a witch or whatever favorite movie you have. Yes?
When we get that type of email from our bank, should we let the bank know?
No, they don't care. They won't care. They don't have time to care. And it didn't come from them.
Really?
It's not their problem. I hate to say this, but it's not their problem. That's the thing. Some third party has gone to their website. I mean, I'm loving my code. It's starting to stretch out. Has gone to their website and just kind of copied and pasted images off of it. This is for, that's a legit Hotmail 1999 tag. This all looks like it's straight out of Hotmail. Well, it's designed to look that way. But the bank, they know that everyone's already going to use their thing to use their style, as it were, to try to fake them. There's nothing they can do about it though, because this is again, when Jeff introduced me, the idea of having data that is both accessible and secure. I kind of don't care if my logo's out there. The more people that know my logo, the better I am at promoting myself. That's one of the 4 P's of marketing, promotion. But it doesn't do me any good if the only thing that I'm known for is hacking, hacking people. But what I would do is if you get one, you forward it to the FBI. They actually have a place where they collect all these emails. And so then that way they can try to preemptively block some of them. It also goes to that information then goes to all the private email companies and say, hey, block this email if it looks like this. So I don't remember that website off the top of my head, but if you go to FBI.gov, they've got a place to send spam. I think it's spam in fact, I'm 90% certain now that I'm talking through it. I think it's spam at FBI.gov. Email, forward it to them. Yes.
Recently, got an email from a company I shop at in Singapore. That said, take this little survey and you might win a prize.
Sure.
So I took the survey and the prizes were not all that exotic, but on the other hand, I thought, well, I'll just order this one. And then I started noticing it happening with other companies, same thing.
Yeah.
Well, the second one, I thought, I better read the agreement. The agreement said,
You may sell it. They're going to sell your
you're
data.
gonna have to sign up to a subscription to a little periodical, $72.
I'm sorry.
And so I called them up after I'd already gotten the gift and said, this sounds rather fraudulent to me. And I said, I was about ready to call the Attorney General's office and see what they have to say about this. And so I did. I haven't taken these other surveys because they backed off from it.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear that they backed off. Should I repeat the thing for Zoom?
Briefly, if you could.
So he received an email to take a survey, and that customer survey then sold his data and also sold him a subscription for $72 a year for some subscription service. And unfortunately, that's not actually what I'm talking about today. That's on, is it unethical? Yes. Is it illegal? Current law is muddled, and the answer is it's muddled, because where was the company of origin? What did the terms of service say? Did you actually agree to them when you clicked a few buttons? It's hard, click through agreements are legally binding in the 9th Circuit, which we're in, and not legally binding in the 10th Circuit, which is where Utah is. We have different laws for different states. We are a federalized country. We're not a unit in that regard. So, in the 9th Circuit, which is where we live, and here in Idaho, when I say it's definitely unethical. There's no doubt about that. Is it illegal? Ugh. If I was in Utah, I could gladly say yes with the information you provided. In Idaho, I can't make that.
Why would the company that they were doing the survey about, why wouldn't they object to that?
Because they got money. They got money for it.
Oh.
They get a kickback.
Oh,
Sorry. I mean, that's really, it comes down to the internet's now, the internet is the Wild West of capitalism still, in a lot of cases. More questions about fake emails. I'll move on to layer 7, because this is the most common one that you guys have heard of. A virus. You have a computer virus. Computer virus is actually a specific term. It's not this broad thing that we attribute it to. And it's important to understand what the difference between a Trojan, a virus, and a worm is, because your defense against them are different. The only way that you're gonna get a Trojan is by you clicking. So if you had to click something to make the bad thing happen on your system, that's a Trojan, not a virus. A virus, you don't necessarily have to click anything, but you do have to like go to a website, get a piece of email, something like that. Something has to happen to you. The third one, which is the most severe, is called worm. The worm doesn't need to do anything. It worms its way into your system. That's why we call them worms. This is where ransomware comes in, and which is outside of fake emails, the most common type of this is the most common type for actual payments is ransomware. They will use a Trojan to get you to install a bit of software, and then you've installed it. Maybe it's a font, maybe it's a screensaver. Those are kind of going out of favor. Most people don't use screensavers anymore. But some sort of little light-hearted program. And then what happens is a month goes by, nothing, they do nothing for a month. They sit and hibernate. And then poof, all of a sudden it says, your data is locked out. Please send X number of Bitcoins to this Bitcoin address. If you don't, your data is gone forever. The school districts around here, we're now up to 3 of them that have had to pay out because they're stupid enough to click the freaking link. Because it's my job to teach them not to. So is it their fault? I never blame the user. Everyone else, not everyone, but a lot of my profession blames the user. If the users knew more, well, how are they going to know more without me explaining it to you? And I'll leave that there. Thank you all. This has been fantastic. I'm available for any questions you may have. I'm happy to, those of you on Zoom that are participating, if you just send them in the chat and we can get them read out here, that would be great. Any questions? I have a citation list for those of you who want to see it. Yes, please.
As I was mentioning to you before everybody else got here, somehow my email got, and I don't click on things.
Sure.
I'm real diligent about that, but my email got picked up by somebody, and it's just, I'm getting all these, luckily it's going into my spam for the most part. A lot of it's trying to sell me stuff, but a lot of it is smut,
I'm sorry.
And well, it goes to my spam. I don't look at it. I
Sure.
just
No,
get rid of
I
it.
get
But
this.
I've got Norton on my computer. Which, so it throws it into spam, but I can't block it because
No, you can't.
every one of them, it has the same subject.
Right.
But the emails, it's all different domains. It's numbers, letters, numbers, letters, and it's never the same.
That's right.
So I mean, I could fill my whole computer up.
Somehow someone sold your information to an AdSense. It's called AdSense. And then all of these ad servers just automatically spam your email address.
Any way to get rid of them?
Nope. You could
change your email.
Change your email address.
Which is what I'm doing now.
Realistically, no, you're in these type of things. If you have a Gmail account, Google is really good at keeping that kind of stuff at bay. But even then, without third-party tools, like there's a product called the Barracuda Spy Firewall that is really good at keeping that stuff out. But again, most people don't have an email server that they run. So that's where those type, at the enterprise level, yes, I can block that stuff. At the home user level, I can't. Yes.
I heard one of our U.S. senators say that the national lab here was one of the lead labs in the country on
cybersecurity.
The area of cybersecurity, and he was saying that if they choose a lab, it would make sense to choose this.
Well, we have a lot of nuclear power generation, and that's what the Chinese have been attacking lately. Has been nuclear power. They want more and more nuclear power in China because they want more and more power. Yeah.
For safety systems, they're isolated.
Well, I know that, but I'm just saying.
Or in general, because that's what I do. I started nuclear power plants, or did.
Oh yeah, no.
And worked in Taiwan, and they are very isolated.
Oh yeah.
To like even do data analysis, we go down to the computer room,
right,
and generate a CD.
It's like, yeah, oh yeah, it's Mission Impossible style where Tom Cruise.
So when I see these TV shows, how easy it is to get nuclear power, it's like, No.
No, it's not that. I agree with that. A lot of our absolute mission critical systems are not kept on the
On the
network.
other hand, I'm not so sure about transmission networks.
Right. No, like the power networks, they are all interconnected. They have to be in order to make sure that the power flows from wherever it needs to come from to wherever it needs to go to, like Lake Mead
The problem
to.
is, more
Las
than a
Vegas.
few, that equipment is sourced from China.
Yep, that's right. And that's why there's a whole bunch of controversy about buying Chinese-made equipment. And this isn't to rag on China. This is just a discussion about where we're at as a society. We are interconnected globally. We have to be. It's the way that the economy works, and it's a good way that the economy works. It's good. I mean, it's one of the reasons we haven't had. It's one of the reasons why Europe hasn't exploded in war in 100 years, which is for the first time in their history. You want to go into European politics, that they haven't really had a major war in it's usually France versus somebody, or Germany or something like that. Yes.
You mentioned fiber optics
Yes.
at some point. Could you expand on that?
Sure.
Because the city, is
A fiber
way
optic.
into fiber.
Sure, a fiber optic cable is just a series of wires. It's a clear tube that light transmits through it rather than electricity. And the reason why it's such a big deal is electricity through a copper wire transmits at 70% of C, which is the speed of light. Well, light travels at the speed of light. So light in the tube travels at like 98% of C. So if I want data to go faster, it needs to physically go faster. It's like having an airplane go at 300 miles an hour versus an airplane that goes at 700 miles an hour. They both leave San Francisco. The one that's going 700 miles an hour gets to New York faster. That's what fiber optic is. That's really the only difference. I mean, there's a lot of networking stuff, technical differences, but as far as the generality goes, it's just faster.
It's not more susceptible.
It's less susceptible actually, because it's harder to tap. But again, you're not going to put fiber optic in your home just to prevent people from tapping your network, because the equipment starts at 10 grand for the routers and stuff. It's not cheap. Yes.
When I heard about the talk being on cybersecurity, I was thinking of a different aspect where our enemy explodes an atomic bomb.
Sure.
The
EMP.
repercussion
Yep.
means that most automobiles won't.
Right. I'm sure our friend here who's worked at INL can talk a lot more about EMP than I can. But my understanding of electromagnetic pulse weaponry, it just fries wires. It basically turns them into major antennas that causes them to short out. And anything with an with a copper wire in it is just basically hosed. But I'm not worried about an electromagnetic pulse weapon hitting us anytime soon, because if that was the case, the World War III has happened and we've got other things to worry about than my little data points. Yes.
The alternative could be coming from the sun.
Well, that's true.
That happened in 1859.
Yes.
Telegraph lines, which are pretty robust.
Yes, but the telegraph lines weren't as insulated. We didn't have rubber insulation like we do nowadays. So we coat most of our wires in the 50s. They were in the 1850s. They had Bakelite, they had other things, but there was also a lot of exposed wire back then. And we don't have that as much nowadays. But still, you're absolutely correct. The sun is the greatest source of nuclear power that we have. Anything that generates nuclear power can generate electromagnetic pulse. But again, what's hilarious is I gave parts of this lecture in Uzbekistan, and someone sitting literally right where you're sitting, 10,000 miles away, asked the exact same question. So there's got to be something about that seat. It doesn't matter where I go, someone in spirit follows me. So yes, in the back.
Could you put those email addresses back up?
I'm sorry, what?
Email addresses, could you put that screen
Oh,
back?
my site list?
Yeah.
I'll give this to Jeff and he can give it to whoever wants it. See, I use Wikipedia. Great place to cite stuff.
Do you donate money to them?
Of course. So it's not free for me. Well, yes.
Well, it occurs to me that one of the reasons EMP is not likely is China has a lot of investment in the United States.
Oh, absolutely. I think that the best way to prevent war is economic collaboration. They don't want us to interrupt their money nearly as much as we want, equally as much as we don't want to interrupt our money. Yes.
If it's still true, my wife and I took who were in South Dakota, silos, and they had open to the public, and they explained it how they have to train the young kids to use dial phone. The digital, but the biggest thing was they still use the final
Yep.
record size 9-inch
8-inch
floppy
discs, yeah.
because it can't be hacked. Is that still?
Let me tell you my Y2K story, if you don't mind. It's a little bit off topic, but I'll bring it into you. So I spent Y2K in jail. And the reason for that was because I was the computer systems administrator for the San Anselmo Police Department in 1999/2000. And they wanted to make sure that Y2K didn't affect their systems. And so we put in real-time clock updates, we've done all these updates, and Y2K came, and the entire state of California was down for 3 hours, the criminal side. So there was a lot of Y2K things that were happening. Well, Y2K also affected missile silos. And they hired a whole bunch of old-time programmers to come back out and reprogram all of them to be, what? Yeah, COBOL. Yeah, it was all COBOL. That's exactly correct, all COBOL programming. If you were a COBOL programmer in 2000, you made money. So I always tell everyone, go into COBOL programming for Y3K. But yeah, yes, they isolate the systems, they make them run on tapes, they make them run on old software, only because why update it if it's not broken? Because if it's not broken, we really don't want to have to fix that stuff, especially if we break it on accident. So a lot of that stuff is old and outdated, but as long as it works, that's all that matters. So yes, they still use some of that stuff in Minuteman missile projects. At least my understanding, talking to my FBI friends, which I have a few of. Any questions on Zoom?
No, not yet.
Okay, yes,
So what's the best way as a home user should we be protecting ourselves other than
constant vigilance.
not clicking on, not going to sites you shouldn't go?
Don't go to sites, yeah, exactly. It's, common sense really is the best way. There is no, I cannot recommend antivirus software because by the time it detects it, you already have it. And how long have you had it? Is it the latest updates or 3 updates before? I can't recommend a special network filter device because it's always out of date. You can't react. I mean, let me rephrase. All the tools that you would buy are just reactive products. You have to be proactive. Don't go to websites. Don't click on the emails that you don't think are good. If it doesn't smell good and it has to smell perfect, you have to expect a 3-star Michelin meal when you're looking at your email, to mix my metaphors properly. And if you don't click it. It's because if it's important, it'll get sent again. And if it gets sent again, oh, maybe I should click it, is a much better thought to have than clicking that first one. Again, if it still doesn't read right, don't click it. There's nothing in an email that's important. Nothing. If it's truly important, they're going to call you or they're going to send a courier. Trust me, I'm serious. There's nothing in your email that you're going to lose your life savings on, other than if you click. If you don't click, you won't. Yes.
One of the things that I've done is when I get stuff, if it spells funny, but I'm not sure, I'll actually go to the phone number that I know is the correct phone number for whoever that is and say, did you send this to me?
Oh, yeah, that works.
And I've had a couple of people say, no, that's a scam, don't click.
That's right.
So they're aware of
And
it.
by the way, generally speaking, it is a scam. I'm going to just say this. I mean, a lot of the email is junk and spammy and just wants you to click. Don't click.
And even if you think it isn't, don't click.
Yeah.
Go to the website manually and.
Right. That's right. Exactly. And
Not
if
the
it's,
one in the
if it's a
email.
promotion you're trying to get a hold of, I guarantee you it's going to be on their website. Go to the website. Yeah.
There isn't anything you can buy online right now, whether software package or something, any kind of agreement that you make, whether it's with the government, whether it's with a company, that you don't ultimately get to where you have to click on accepting the terms of the agreement, which no one in this world has ever read. And at what point is someone going to figure out to just put in there that you agree to turn over your firstborn male child, drain all your bank accounts and give us the money, and that's going to be in there somewhere.
I sent that out last week. Did you click it?
I didn't, not yet.
That's what got you here. See, I now own all of your information. No, like I said, the Ninth Circuit said that's legal and the 10th Circuit said it's not.
So somebody in the.
So
night-
somebody at the ninth thinks it is. Think
Somebody
about, but
got
think
smart
about what's
with-
in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. I heard it, I heard the bad word over here. Yeah. Yes.
What are the career options for some, say, grandson or something, want to go into cybersecurity?
Well, speaking of that, Idaho State has a fantastic cybersecurity program with our MBA program. It's called the NIATech program. It's literally the top one in the nation.
Really?
It really is. And that's one of the reasons why we like teaming up with INL. We send a lot of our students there and they send a lot of their researchers to us. So we actually have a great team. So yeah, I'd send them to ISU, send them my way, and I'm happy to talk to them.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that because recently he said that he's at University of Georgia. And
That's a good one.
he said he has a class that is sort of in cybersecurity. And he said it's so boring, that he's thinking of changing his major to marketing.
Marketing's a good one too.
But the program you're talking about is sort of.
It's an MBA program.
MBA.
Yeah, so have him do marketing and then come get his MBA from ISU in cybersecurity.
You guys partner with CEI on cybersecurity?
On cybersecurity, they're in a different, they're doing cyber physical security. So they're doing elevators and buttons and camera equipment. We're doing policy procedures, how do you create a secure system to start with? Different, again, going back
Different
to
levels.
exactly what we do at ISU when we go back to our chart. They're doing here and we're doing here. Is it better or worse? No, because it's all needed. So don't think that layer 1 or layer 7 is better, they're just focusing their cybersecurity efforts here, and we're focusing our cybersecurity efforts up here.
So is it good to start out and do the bottom layers and then go to the top layers, or does it matter?
Does not matter. Like I said, this is just how computers communicate. You write data down, we transmit across the wire, we unpack the data up. But it's just a diagram. It's not a hierarchy of which is better or worse. But like I said, CEI is here, ISU is here, not because it's better or worse, but because that's where we've chosen to focus. There's a lot here. I mean, this was just a brief summary, and there's still, we could spend an entire semester class just on this. And trust me, they do there. We spend entire semester classes just on this layer. So, yes.
I just wanted to not pop your bubble, but you told Kim that you got us to click the link to get us to come here.
Oh,
But
right.
at the beginning of the lecture, you told us we were nobodies anyway.
That's right. That's right. So I'm out $0. And you're out $0. So we're all equal. Yes.
You don't hear about it as much anymore, as they're still hacking in automobiles.
Oh, absolutely they are. Yeah, in fact, they're trying to hack the Tesla. That's the big one that they're trying to get. They got the big one, if they can get into autopilot, then all of a sudden we can steer people into walls. Hey, I now control you, I won't slow you down, you give me $1 million now, or else I run you into a wall. They're trying to do that, which is horribly scary. Because remember, Tesla updates through the internet. Do you know what a Tesla? Your eyes are wide.
I don't own one, no.
We can get one?
I'm not planning on it, but now I'm really not planning
No,
on
you
it.
really don't. Yes.
One of our religious leaders here was contacted, I think he was in Mexico. And
Oh, and his grandson sent $1 million because I've been, yeah, that's a bad one. It's just, yeah, you just have to be vigilant. Goes back to your question. How do you prevent this? Constant vigilance, knocking on wood. I'm serious. I mean, you just have to think, is this normal for what I do? If it's not normal, it's probably a scam, and just run away as fast as you can. Same thing with yourself, health, I'm in jail, I need a bail. Why are you in jail? You've never been in jail in your life, That's why my story about Y2K, I always started off that way, because it's kind of funny. I've never, yes.
On the other end of this, like when you're ready to get rid of your cell phone indoors, particularly like a laptop or something like that.
Yeah.
Or a desktop, I've traditionally pulled out the hard drive and smashed it to hell with it.
Good job.
Hammer, but, or send it on anywhere for them to strip out the.
That's
metal.
exactly what I would
Is that
recommend.
about still the only way?
I'd still recommend it. That's the only way. Yep. Cell phones are great target practice for those of you into our, into our Idaho's favorite thing to talk about apparently. But yeah, smash them, shoot them, destroy them.
Good old fashioned.
The old fashioned sledgehammer, whatever works. It's fun to break stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but I'm serious. Don't, unless, I mean, sure, your kid needs a cell phone. Your kid, your grandkid wants a cell phone. You have an old one lying around. Do you trust your grandkid? If yes, give him the phone. Who cares? He's not going to do, by the time he fills it full of data and then gets rid of it, your data's been long erased, truly, actually erased. Don't worry about it. If you're but if you want to donate your computer to DI or something like that, I'd have second thoughts about that with the hard drive in it. I wouldn't do it. I know it sounds terrible because it ruins a thing, but that thing has all of your information on it. And that thing is you. Would you give yourself to this organization? I like DI as much as the next person. I'm not giving anything to DI, or I'm not giving myself to DI. Yes,
What sort of computer and cell phone do you own?
I own the cheapest, oldest cell phone and the cheapest, oldest computer you've ever seen. Actually, I
Really?
have, except for my house, I have this super high-end, really nice one that has a bunch of monitors attached. I just use it for fun,
Ah,
No, I don't. I have a Mac, I have Linux, I have Windows, I've used iOS. I switch between iOS and I don't care. It's just a tool to me. It's not a passionate, it's just a thing.
Mhm.
So I have no objections to those who want to use all Mac stuff. I have no objections to all those who want to use all Windows stuff. And that's odd coming from a person like me. Most of the time, they're Linux all the way and open source and freedom and whatever tool you use to get the job done is the best tool to use to get the job done.
interesting.
I don't care what it is. I'll support them.
Huh.
So great non-recommendation, sorry. Whatever is in your, budget first, use case second. You want to spend $1,000? Well, then you're not buying a high-end Mac. But you could buy a mid-end, higher-end PC. So, depends on the budget and then what you're gonna do with it. That's where I would start with my recommendations.
So if you happen to click on something or you get, infiltrated, is there anything you can do or should you?
Sure, just monitor yourself.
Yeah.
I mean,
once someone gets into the system or whatever, is there
you can
something?
format your hard drive, hire someone like me, take it to a computer repair center, erase all the data, erase it 7 times, rebuild it. And is it perfect? No. Is that a perfect solution? Is it good enough for this room? More than likely, yes. I don't want to say your computer's now ruined. By the way, I've been at jobs where if that happened, we'd throw the computer away. We'd shred it and throw it away because we didn't want any type of that kind of thing on the network. So yeah, for you though, get it fixed. Take it to an honest repair guy. They should charge you about $55 to do a wipe and reload and backup. Yes.
When
Or
it
different.
comes to financial accounts, set up alerts.
That's right. Yes. Get yourself some credit monitoring software or
Well, I mean, like,
service.
On
And
any account I have, if I get at least $200 expenditure, I get notified usually by email and text.
yeah,
And that's how to detect the
and
problems.
I just assume everyone has that nowadays because let me rephrase. You should do that. It doesn't matter if you're hacked or not hacked, because there's only 2 types of people in the world. Those who have been hacked or those who don't know they've already been hacked. Yes.
I've got credit cards that will do that. You spend
Yeah.
a nickel, they'll send you an alert, but it's annoying, but it's also protective. But
Yeah, it's annoying, but the other choices.
yeah, the other choices are far better.
Yeah.
But the question I really have though is, one thing we do sometimes is like about once a month to protect from ransomware is to back up our entire
Absolutely.
network. So it's somewhere else
Yeah.
offside of the computer.
Yep.
So that if it ever goes down, all I gotta do is buy a new computer and throw that one away.
That's right.
And protect from ransomware.
Backing up is always the mission critical to all of this stuff. The good, valid backup. Now, I will say with ransomware, they don't activate immediately, so you might restore to the ransomware point. So one thing you want to do is make sure you actually back up twice, once yearly and once maybe monthly.
Okay.
And so that your backup probably won't have the ransomware, so you only lose at least, you know, a maximum of 11 months of data instead of all of your data. So just as an FYI, in fact, we teach an entire class in the, CEI, we have a similar program in our College of Technology. We have an entire semester-long class on nothing but backup theory. I mean, that's how complicated that companies get with their backup procedures. So. All right, well, thank you guys. You've been a great audience, and I'm really grateful I could come here, and thank you, Jeff, for inviting me. It's been a fantastic opportunity.